Welcome to Hidden Empires, the channel that uncovers the untold stories of self-made billionaires. From toy sellers to tech visionaries, from forgotten failures to global empires, we reveal the strategies, risks, and turning points that built fortunes.
Some people are born contrarians, and Vinod Khosla is one of them. When he was a kid growing up in India in the 60s, he read an article about a company called Intel and decided right then and there that he wanted to work in semiconductors. Problem was he didn't know anyone in the industry, didn't know any engineers, and didn't even know what a microprocessor was. But instead of letting that stop him, he decided to pursue engineering at the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. And after graduating, he moved to the US to get a master's in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon, followed by an MBA from Stanford. These weren't just for show, though. They were practical, applied experiences that taught him how to build and lead a company. And soon after he got back to India, he co-founded a company called Sun Microsystems with his friend and colleague, Scott McNealy. Their timing couldn't have been better. The personal computer was blowing up and Sun was right there in the middle of it, creating the infrastructure that made it all work. The company went public in 1986, and by the time Vinod left in 1990, he was a multi-millionaire many times over. But this is where our story really begins, because in 1996, Vinod left Sun to start investing in other companies. And almost immediately, he had his own moment. One of his investments called Go Corporation went under. Go is a pen computing company, which basically meant they were trying to put a portable computer that you could carry around in your pocket. It was a cool idea, but the timing was way off. Back then, laptops were still big and clunky, and the idea of a handheld device just wasn't ready for prime time. So, while the idea was futuristic, the market just wasn't there. The company ended up burning through tens of millions of dollars before collapsing, and it was a huge embarrassment for Vinod. Not only was he personally involved in the company, but he was also one of the largest investors. He was a household name in Silicon Valley, and people knew him as the guy from Sun, and now he was the guy who bet on a silly little pen computer. His reputation was on the line. So most people would have played it safe. They would have stuck to investing in companies that were either already proven or at least seemed like a safe bet. But Vinod did the exact opposite. He doubled down on his contrarian strategy and started investing in companies that most people thought were too risky. He invested in solar power companies, robotics firms, startups, and biotech companies. Basically, anything that seemed technically challenging and commercially unproven was right up his alley. It was a super contrarian strategy, and it almost killed him. A few years later, one of his investments called Webvan collapsed during the dot-com crash. Then another one of his investments called Lycos collapsed after that. And then another one of his investments called Friendster collapsed after that. Meanwhile, the media was having a field day writing articles like Sun founder Vinod Khosla scores another strikeout, and Khosla Ventures loses its shirt on Friendster investment. There was no question that Vinod was good at picking losers. But as time went on, something amazing happened. All of his winners started to take off. His investment in Solyndra, a solar power company, went public at $1 billion valuation. His investment in Bloom Energy, another solar power company, went public at a $4.8 billion valuation. His investment in Planet Labs, a satellite imagery company, went public at a $2.7 billion valuation. His investment in Square, the payments company, went public at a $3.5 billion valuation. Suddenly, everyone was talking about how Vinod Khosla was one of the best investors of his generation. And the media that once ridiculed him was now hailing him as a genius. So here's the takeaway for us. Greatness often comes from the willingness to look foolish. If you want outsized returns, you must embrace outsized risks and survive the misses long enough to hit the wins. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about making sure your failures are cheap and your successes are transformational. New episodes come out every week. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe, like, and comment so others might find and enjoy these videos. Go to description below for more resources and information. Thanks for your time.